Hi everyone, Shaun Humphries here. Welcome to All Things Retirement. Well, in this installment, we're going to talk about the difference between ROI and ROL, return on investment versus return on life. And if you get the return on life equation right, you're going to live a very satisfying retirement. Now, if you are new to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We are posting content all the time, whether you're in the runway phase, maybe 5 to 10 years out, maybe transitioning just on the cusp of retirement, or maybe you're already retired. We've got great content, not just on the financial issues, but the non-financial as well. And that's what this topic's about. It's really a non-financial topic, but it links very closely to your financial planning. So it's important because ultimately we're trying to find that sweet spot in terms of contentment, fulfillment, happiness as part of our retirement journey. However, when I ask people what they think the key priorities or building blocks around their financial plan should be, or retirement plan, most of the time things like cash flow planning and budgeting and investment planning and retirement income planning and estate planning and tax planning, those are all the things that typically come up. People don't normally default to the softer aspects of the planning, and that really is the things that bring you personal fulfillment. So I have a question for you right now, and that question is, what brings you personal fulfillment? What aspects of your life give you a deep sense of satisfaction or purpose? And it's important that you reflect on that, and you need to bring that into the planning process when you develop your financial plan. It's really this sweet spot between return on investment and return on life. And as those things come together, you create and craft a wonderful plan. Obviously, you can have some great things you want to be doing that will bring you life satisfaction. But if you haven't prepared financially to allow you to do those things, well then you don't have a full or complete retirement plan. And it works both ways around this journey. So make sure that you begin connecting the dots between return on investment and return on life. The two things really link up together. Now I've got a few questions for you. So the first question is, if we were meeting 3 years from today and we were looking back over the last 3 years, what has to have happened in your life for you to feel happy with your progress? It's a great question. So look back in the past, what's brought you fulfillment and happiness and satisfaction, and those things need to be part of your planning. Here's another question. How do you want to be remembered? What's your life purpose? And finally, what gives your life meaning? Okay, those are really important questions to bring into the retirement planning discussion. So the important thing is take today captive, and what I mean by that is begin reflecting on those things that bring you satisfaction and start noticing those things. Write them down and begin to formulate specific strategies you can link into your retirement plan so that you can keep those things going. Now our model with regard to return on life looks at different aspects of our life as capital accounts. So again, we think of financial capital, and that's one aspect, but then we've got relational capital, we've got emotional capital, we've got physical capital, cognitive capital, we've got space capital, interestingly enough, so our living space, and vocational capital. And the notion of capital denotes, or it conjures up this idea of investing in, spending time, cultivating, and growing these capital accounts. And so when you look at different aspects of your life, what's really critical is you begin formulating some action plans to begin investing in these capital accounts, to grow these capital accounts, because all these accounts conspire to bringing you wonderful return on life. And that's really what this presentation is all about. Now, we've put together what we call a return on life wheel, and you can look at the various aspects of your life. We divide it up in little different pie cuts. And what I'd like you to do, either now or at the end of the presentation, take a look at this particular part of the presentation and rank yourself in terms of how well you're doing in each of these areas. So you can look at relational capital as an example. Are you a 1 or are you a 10? So at the far end of that circle, that's a 10. And maybe you're a 1, maybe you're a 5. If you look at your financial capital, maybe you've been hitting home runs around the financial planning piece, and that's a 10 for you. For others of you, you're not doing so well, and that might be a 3, and you need to work on that. What about emotional capital? Where are you? Are you happy? Are you contented? Is life going well? Are you bluesy? Are you down? Are there some health issues you need to contend with to improve that area? Where are you in each of those areas? And what I want you to do is go around this wheel and rank yourself from 1 to 10. So 1 is at the lowest ebb of the pie pieces, and then the outer end would be a 10. And then I want you to join the lines between each of those numbers around this wheel. And you want to see how that wheel is formatted. Is it smooth all the way around? Is it a wheel that maybe doesn't turn very well? And for some of you, maybe it's a wheel that doesn't turn at all. Okay, so the first aspect that we want to talk about is this notion of financial capital. And the way that I look at financial capital is I start with something called a financial roadmap. This is a really powerful tool. So when I sit down with my own clients, what we want to do is, first of all, talk about what's important to them just generally. So money's a tool, and we want to understand what's important to them. What do they want their money to do for them? We also talk about milestones along the way. What are specific financial goals they want to accomplish? There also are risks on this highway towards their ultimate destination. And so we want to identify potential risks and then put in place strategies that maybe can help us deal with those risks. And then on the box on the left-hand side on the bottom is, where are you today? Where are you financially? And where do you need to be financially to achieve your objectives? And so part of the work that I will often do for clients is help them understand the connection between return on investment and return on life, and where they need to be financially to make sure that they get that return on life part of the equation happening really well for them. Now, the next capital account that I want to talk about is vocational capital. I think this is a really important component to the retirement income plan. And what we're finding now more and more is that people aren't just suddenly retiring. They're really transitioning into retirement. And so what I really encourage clients to do is to begin thinking about side hustles, consulting, part-time work, things that they can do as they transition into retirement. And there's all kinds of studies out there, I won't get into them in this presentation, that confirm all the benefits relationally from a health standpoint, cognition, cultivating a sense of purpose can come from work. Now, some of you might be in work situations where that's just not on, you don't want to, you're done, and I completely understand that. But many of you might be in a position where you may want to do a bit of a transition, and so you want to begin thinking about that a few years before you retire. What's the side hustle? What's the thing you like to do? How do you want to use your skills once you leave your current employer or do something different? And so why it's important is that a vocational capital, something you can do, paid work as an example, using your skills, does help you transition more successfully into retirement. It's better to have that transition usually for most people than to suddenly do a cold turkey retirement. The next one is relational capital, and again, relational capital is something that needs to be invested in. You have to be really intentional. Again, study after study confirms the benefits to people of cultivating relationships. And what happens for some people is a lot of their relationships are in the work context. And this is sounding probably sexist, but often that's men, right? Men are not great often at cultivating those relationships outside their professional sphere. So again, before you retire, what are the relationships that need to be cultivated? Do you have relationships outside of the work context? Who are some people that you want to begin investing in to build up that relational capital? And again, study after study confirms that if you're looking for health and good cognition and overall wellness and happiness in retirement, you need to make sure that you're looking after those relationships over time. You want to invest along the way and build up that capital that will help you through that transition to retirement. The next one is emotional capital. And so emotional capital ties into being really attentive and aware and kind of listening to yourself to deal with issues around whether it's depression, it could be mild depression, are you bluesy, do you feel a sense of satisfaction, or you're a little bit down? And there are some specific things that you can be doing to combat that. Now, what you're going to find is a lot of the things we talk about are sort of multifaceted. They're connected to one another. So to the extent that your health is decent, that ties into emotions. To the extent that you've got great relationships, that ties into your emotions. And so all those things are kind of interconnected. My encouragement to you is that you just spend some time thinking through, how are my emotions? What resources can I begin tapping into to improve that aspect of my life? Now, the physical capital aspect is critical as well. Again, there's lots of books written on the topic. Some of the really big things you want to be mindful of around physical capital is you need to start investing in that long before retirement. what you see with people as they age is that their lean muscle mass becomes, it just degrades. The percentage body fat goes up, the lean muscle mass goes down, and so you see people losing more and more function. That's easily dealt with through strength training. You don't have to do a lot of training to fight against that process of losing muscle mass. Cognition is helped mightily by aerobic exercise and exercise generally. So you want to make sure you're exercising regularly, eating clean foods, a good diet, and focused on strength training, particularly as you get older. That's one of the most important things you should be doing. It's like the fountain of youth for you. And then you've got cognitive capital, and that's, things like, are you writing? Are you painting? Are you journaling? Are you involved in hobbies or pursuits that will really cultivate cognition? It will challenge you and build up that aspect of the capital account for you. It's a really important aspect. And believe it or not, space capital. So part of your whole journey is figuring out, what kind of space do I want to live in? Where do I want to live? How do I want to organize my space? What are my dreams about space? And that should be developed as part of your overall retirement transition. So go through each of those functional areas and begin identifying where the gaps are. Go back to that wheel and trace where you are from 1 to 10. 1 is at the middle of the wheel, 10's at the outer edge. Are you a smooth wheel all the way around, or do you need to do some work to improve some of those functional areas? So really what I want you to do is identify the gaps and take one action step in a functional area that really needs some work. Now, one of the things that we do all the time is coaching for clients, and I've got a link in the show notes that will take you to our coaching program. So if you're at the phase where you're trying to get some good advice around the whole retirement journey, I'd encourage you to visit that page. Just click on the link in terms of retirement coaching. We've got some resources and information there for you. Part of what we do as coaches is we identify if there's any gaps. So this exercise will help you identify, are there any gaps in your accumulation of capital accounts in the different areas we talked about. And what we help clients do is identify financial gaps. And so we try to look at different aspects of your financial planning and model whether you're tracking in the right direction, and if you're not, what the gaps are, and then we give you specific strategies for looking after those gaps. Well, it's my hope that you found this video and this content helpful. Again, a successful retirement is understanding the difference between return on investment and just financial planning issues and return on life. And so take a look at each of those functional accounts and begin building up your capital accounts to make sure you have a satisfying retirement.
Be sure to go to our show notes where you have a link to our website for great resources. Hit the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any great content. And we've linked to a video on the recent changes to Canada Pension Plan. You'll enjoy that content as well.